Yes, welcome to the show, everybody. Now, listen, the Philadelphia Eagles have made a trade. John Metchie III is now a Philadelphia Eagle, acquired from the Houston Texans by trading Harrison Bryant, the tight end that we brought in early this offseason during the Dallas Goedert rumors and the discussion about him being traded and whatnot. We end up sending Harrison Bryant and a fifth-round pick that we acquired from the Texans in the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson trade, and we get John Metchie III and a sixth-round pick, which we originally sent to them in that previous trade, as mentioned before. So basically, we swapped Harrison Bryant for John Metchie III, and we got a little bit of a pick swap here going on for the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, I think people are looking at this trade with a little bit of a raised eyebrow. Now, I don't have the ability to raise my eyebrow. Otherwise, see, I can't even do it. I could do it both at the same time for my radio audience. Not the point. The point being is I would be like The Rock, lower the sunglasses, raise up the eyebrow, and then give a little bit of a clever comment, but I don't have any such ability. So I look at this comment, I look at this trade, and I say to myself, why? Why did the Philadelphia Eagles go out and trade for another wide receiver in the room? Now, we brought in a bunch of guys. I mean, we obviously have AJ and Devontae. Those two guys we know are making the team. We have Jahan Dotson, who's going to make the team. Johnny Wilson had that big preseason game in the first matchup. You know, Terrence Marshall had his moments in camp. You have Aniyah Smith, who's coming along right now. You have Cooper, one of the other stars in that first game, is another wide receiver who I think looks like he can play. And now all of a sudden you're bringing in John Metchie III, former second-round pick, to Philadelphia. Again, I don't quite know what the plan is. And maybe it's a little bit of a roster manipulation. Maybe instead of keeping an extra tight end, you put Johnny Wilson as your tight end, so he counts as a tight end there. You keep him on the roster, and then all of a sudden, everybody else subsequently moves up on the depth chart at wide receiver, and you add a little bit more depth there. And we'll get into the reasons why that may be the plan here for Philadelphia in terms of adding wide receiver depth, because quite frankly, you got a little bit of an injury concern here in the wide receiver room with AJ Brown. Not to the point where he's going to be out for an extended period of time. But this offseason altogether has been about saving money and having contingencies. And I think Philadelphia is just adding more contingencies just in case something like that happens. And we'll get into that in just a moment. But before we do, you know what it is. This is the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. I am your host, Asif Badi, and like you, I am a Birds fan that talks about the Birds, only the Birds, and nothing but the Philadelphia Eagles. So please do us a favor here at the channel. Help us grow organically by shooting this video a thumbs up, commenting your thoughts in the comment section below, and subscribing to the channel. Also, check us out on audio platforms such as Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and leave a 5-star review, because in the end, it doesn't cost you a damn thing to go ahead and subscribe and give a 5-star review. It would mean the world to me. And in a world where everybody's out minding their own business and so focused on the individual, sometimes you have to look out and say, hey, how can I help my fellow human being? Help a brother out by subscribing to the channel. We appreciate your support on the opposite side of the camera and on the opposite side of the airwaves. Now, listen, let's look at some of the specifics of this trade. Okay, so I'm going to pull up the trade right now. John Metchie III and a 2026 sixth-round pick from the Houston Texans getting sent to the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Houston Texans get Harrison Bryant and a fifth-round pick of the same draft. And like I mentioned before, these draft picks were involved in the original trade that happened with the Chauncey Gardner-Johnson trade. And as per mentioned before, John Metchie III is a former second-round pick for the Houston Texans, and he missed his first rookie year with leukemia. So he had, my goodness, the guy had cancer, and thank goodness he was able to survive that. But a second-round player, talented player, and when he's on the field, he's actually pretty solid. Like, you look at him and you're saying, it's not like you got a guy who failed in Houston. It's just a guy whose career hasn't been able to hit the ground, so to speak. And again, maybe this move by Philadelphia is just them acquiring extra talent and just adding more talent to the depth of the roster here, because one of the big things that helped them win the Super Bowl last season, and we talked about it early on in this offseason, was that this team right now is not building for star power. It's building for depth. It's having guys at every single spot who, if somebody goes down, can step right in and at least play a solid role with a star out. So I mentioned that because A.J. Brown earlier today or earlier in this week, however you want to call it, since the Cleveland Brown, pardon me, guys, since the Cleveland Brown joint practice, hasn't been able to hit the field due to a hamstring injury. Now, we'll take a look at a report here by Athlon Sports. Shout out to Aiden Kaufman, whoever you are. Again, this was August 16th, so this was over the weekend, obviously. A.J. Brown had an injury to his hamstring that set him back during training camp. He's going to miss practice. He missed the preseason game, obviously. We know that, even though he wasn't necessarily going to play, but he was basically ruled out for it. A.J.'s working through some things, Nick Sirianni says, adding that the team's primary objective is to ensure all players are ready for the season opener, and rightfully so. Now, Philadelphia has had a good track record of having guys be healthy throughout the year, and, you know, I think there's nothing to suggest that Philadelphia would think anything otherwise here. And then even today, you look at reports here, A.J. Brown, hamstring, is not practicing today. This is on August 18th. So it's a little problematic that A.J. Brown has had a hamstring injury that's been kind of lingering throughout training camp. And this is also part of what is the enigma about A.J. Brown, because remember this in Philadelphia, guys, we got the heist of getting A.J. Brown for just a first-round pick in 2022. But part of the reason Tennessee was moving on from A.J. Brown was, one, because, you know, at the time, it was just a mistake by them. I think it was just a very silly trade by them. Two was also that he had chronic injury problems with his knee. Like, it's something that's well documented, and he's always had problems in his knee. So I think the Titans thought to themselves, like, hey, he's going to get a big payday. He's got chronic injury problems. Could we take a chance on a rookie at a rookie contract and get production in a run-heavy offense at the time? Possibly. So I think that's why they pulled the trigger, and it was a mistake by them nonetheless. And we end up being the beneficiaries of that move. And it completely changed the course of this franchise for the next few years after that, because he's come in and look at the record, guys. When A.J. Brown's on the field, we don't lose very many games with him there, right? It's when he's off the field that you got a problem. Now, the fact that this is the same hamstring injury, or at least a similar diagnosis that we saw in 2024 at the earlier part of the year, where he missed a few games in the first few weeks, including the bye, and then he came back afterwards, right? It's the question that you have to ask yourself, is this the same hamstring injury that we had in 2024? Because if it is, that's a bit problematic, because these things tend to linger, and the longer they linger, you know, the more of an issue it could be about long-term effects for the year, where he might be in and out of the lineup. He may not be 100%. His rehab's not going well. The muscle's not healing properly, right? So the way you load the tissue, or the way you put more force through the muscles, can be, you know, compromised, and thus he's moving in a different movement pattern. That's neither here nor there. But the point being is, this injury concern for A.J. Brown is probably why the Philadelphia Eagles went out and got John Metchie. Now, you look at other reports out there, and you're going to hear that, hey, this A.J. Brown injury is not a concern long-term. He's going to be ready by the time the season rolls around. And I believe them. I don't think this is necessarily a red flag, so to speak, about A.J. Brown's injury. But what I think this is showing to everybody out there is that, hey, we need to be really prepared in case A.J. Brown steps out due to injury. Because last season, yeah, you had Jahan Dotson and you had Devontae Smith, but outside of that, there wasn't much wide receiver quality play in Philadelphia. Now, that's kind of been the case for the past few years, but now, you know, again, now you have Devontae, you have AJ. John Dotson has kind of gotten comfortable with Jalen Hurts. Cooper's there, Johnny Wilson's there. Now you add John Mitchell, who was a teammate of Devontae Smith in Alabama. That's another thing that you have to consider here. So just another quality character guy. He survived leukemia. He, hasn't necessarily hit the ground running on his career. No pun intended. And bringing in a guy who's high character, from a big school like Alabama, played in the SEC. Again, they talked about this in Philadelphia, and Jalen Hurts has talked about it. Bringing guys who have been in big spots, big programs, who understand the magnitude of playing quality ball, what it takes to win. Those guys matter in the locker room. And maybe this could just be a move that Howie wants to bring in a guy that's not only high quality, if he has to step in to play a temporary role in the offense, but somebody who Devontae likes, somebody who the quarterback will like, somebody who can just jive in with the culture. And he just seems humble enough. He just seems like a guy who's just down to earth. And, when you survive something like leukemia like that, and you completely have your career in jeopardy, hell, even potentially your life in jeopardy, and you survive something like that. Again, I can't speak on this because I've never had something like that, and knock on wood, we hope nothing like that happens to any of you or any of your loved ones. So being able to survive something like that, though, I can only imagine it puts your mindset in a different frame, and you look at the world in a whole different lens. And having that level of maturity at such a young age, I think, is valuable for a locker room that values those types of players. So yeah, it may not make sense on paper that, hey, we acquired this kid who probably isn't going to see the field, but you know what? Number one, maybe he will, potentially due to injury. It's a contingency plan. But maybe it's just for more leadership in the wide receiver room, more leadership and guys who are grounded in this offense and in this locker room, because quite frankly, what makes Philadelphia not only as excellent as they have been is not just the talent, but it's the type of players that they bring in. And that's something that Howie has talked about. That's something as Jeffrey Lurie has talked about, Sirianni has brought in, and even a guy like Jalen Hurts. The quality of player that you have isn't always necessarily what's happening on the field, but it's how you present yourself, how you go about your business, how your process looks. How grounded are you? Are you somebody who is just all about their business? Are you a me first guy or a team first guy? Those things matter. And you see that with all of the draft picks that they bring into the room here. John Metchie's no different. So for those of you who say this trade makes no sense, you're probably right. It doesn't make a lot of sense, at least on the football field, because you would feel that these guys are kind of well locked in on who's going to play and who isn't. But again, this could just be a morale type of thing. You get a quality player, former second-round pick, who was 5th on the Houston Texans depth chart. Bring him onto your roster so that nobody else has him. And you didn't really pay a huge price for him. You know what I'm saying? You were probably going to cut Harrison Bryant anyway. You might as well bring in a guy who you potentially could look at and say, you know what? If he has to go out there on the field, he at least has had starter. He has at least had starts in the NFL. And we've seen his tape, and he's a quality player, and quite frankly, just jives with some of the guys on the team already. So I think this is something a little bit deeper than football, in my opinion. That's probably why they brought him in. But I think it's also just serves as a contingency for potentially an A.J. Brown injury. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, because quite frankly, I think this is a little bit deeper than football. And that's probably why John Metchie III, congratulations to you, my good sir. You are officially a Philadelphia Eagle. Hey. Thank you so much for watching the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast. If you want to continue to support the channel, please hit the like and subscribe button down below. Also, check us out on Instagram and TikTok at Riding the Bench Eagles Pod. We're also on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, you name it, we're on there. Thank you so much for listening, and please join us next time here at the Riding the Bench Eagles podcast.